In the summer of 2006, a light comedy about the world of glossy magazines and the fashion industry unexpectedly turned into a real cultural phenomenon. The film made impressive money at the box office, reminded everyone just how powerful Meryl Streep was, turned Anne Hathaway and Emily Blunt into stars of a new generation, and sparked a new wave of interest in high fashion.
Are you wearing the
Chanel boots? Yeah, I am.
20 years later, The Devil Wears Prada is still a huge part of pop culture. We still quote its characters.
Where's Armani? He's on the phone. Too slow. You're not going to Paris. I'm so much better than you.
Argue about who the real villain of the story was, and now the sequel has brought Miranda, Andy, and the world of runway back into the spotlight. So why did a story about a naive assistant and her powerful boss connect with audiences so strongly? How did Meryl Streep create one of the most recognizable roles of her career? Miranda Priestly, what role does fashion play in the film? And why does it feel much more complicated today than it may have seemed before? In this video, we'll break down how The Devil Wears Prada works, an almost perfect Hollywood film that shaped several generations of ambitious women and men.
This is the first movie I've ever had, ever, in the 185 years I've been acting, that men have come up to me and said, "I know how you feel."
The Devil Wears Prada is a rare example of a movie that many people think turned out better than the book it was based on. David Frankel's film is adapted from the novel of the same name by Lauren Weisberger, and the story itself came from the writer's own experience. She worked as an assistant to Anna Wintour, the editor-in-chief of American Vogue, and one of the most powerful people in the world of fashion magazines. But there is an important difference between the book and the film. In the novel, Miranda feels almost like pure evil, while Andy openly hates her job and looks down on the world she has entered. The film changes the tone quite a lot. It becomes softer, more layered, and more interested in the women at the center of the story. Instead of making a harsh satire of the fashion industry, Frankel wanted to tell a story about working women, about careers, ambition, and the price people have to pay for success. He didn't simply copy the approach of Robert Altman, who, in his classic dramedy, showed the fashion world as a place of vanity, emptiness, and human flaws. A more important source of inspiration was the lesser-known documentary Unzipped, about designer Isaac Mizrahi. On one hand, it is a witty, light comedy that makes fun of runway culture. On the other hand, it is also a surprisingly honest film about how hard creative work can be, when you constantly have to deal with pressure, criticism, and the need to prove that you deserve your place at the top.
Because one, I think, happens, and this is totally off camera, what I think sound on this one should be turned off.
Right,
That's
okay, so turn it off.
The reaction of the fashion industry to The Devil Wears Prada is a whole separate story. When Lauren Weisberger's novel came out, the writer faced a serious wave of criticism. Influential fashion journalists accused her of devaluing the world of glossy magazines and not appreciating the opportunity she had been given. The logic was basically this: working in a place like that is a rare chance, not something to complain about. Anna Wintour's first reaction was much colder. According to the story, she didn't even immediately remember her former assistant and said something along the lines of, "Who is that?" After that, she barely commented on the manuscript. But with the film, things turned out differently. This time, Wintour softened her attitude and responded with calm irony. She praised Meryl Streep's performance and called the movie very funny. And very symbolically, she came to the premiere wearing Prada. Later, Wintour remembered that the fashion industry was supposedly very worried about her and afraid that the film would show her in a bad light. But the real question is, was the industry truly worried about Anna, or was it more worried about itself? Costume designer Patricia Field also found herself in a difficult position. According to rumors, many designers basically declared a fashion boycott against the project. There was talk that brands that helped the film could damage their relationship with Vogue. The only one who wasn't afraid was Valentino Garavani. He not only supported the film, but also appeared in a cameo, which immediately made it clear that the characters in the movie really belonged to the highest circles of fashion. Despite all the resistance, Patricia Field still managed to get pieces from Prada, Chanel, Dolce & Gabbana, Calvin Klein, and Fendi for the film. And that is exactly why what we see on screen does not feel like a fake parody of fashion, but almost like a real fashion world. The filmmakers spent more than $1 million on the costumes, but Patricia Field's job was not simply to make the characters look beautiful. She had to turn fashion into a real part of the storytelling. Through clothing, she shows who these people are, their status, ambition, innocence, exhaustion, cynicism, and even their vulnerability. Every outfit in the film works as a sign of where a character stands inside the fashion hierarchy. Miranda Priestly represents both quiet luxury and instantly recognizable designer labels. And despite the title, Prada actually doesn't appear in the movie that often. Instead, Miranda wears vintage pieces from Versace, Valentino, Donna Karan, and Bill Blass. Emily, her hardworking, nervous, and sharp-tongued assistant, wears Vivienne Westwood, a designer known for her rebellious image in the fashion world. Andy, meanwhile, goes through a complete visual transformation. She starts as a young woman in a simple cerulean blue sweater and slowly turns into almost the perfect office siren. It is a classic movie makeover, but it is not there only to make her look prettier. Patricia Field shows that clothing in film can be more than decoration. It can actually drive the story forward. It was this approach that earned the Devil Wears Prada Oscar and BAFTA nominations for Best Costume Design. After the film came out, it not only strengthened Anna Wintour's image as the most powerful figure in fashion media, but also confirmed Prada's place among the ultimate symbols of high fashion. As people in the industry often say, where Miuccia Prada goes, the rest of fashion soon follows. Screenwriter Aline Brosh McKenna helped bring this approach into the script. Like Frankel, she followed the principle of show, don't tell. That is why the characters and the world of runway are revealed not through direct explanations, but through visual storytelling. The opening scene already makes this clear. In less than a minute, the parallel editing shows the difference between Andy and the women who work at the fashion magazine. While they fit perfectly into the glossy world around them, Andy looks like she comes from a completely different place. At the same time, we immediately understand her real goal. She doesn't want to become part of the fashion industry. She wants to build a career in journalism. The same idea works in the scene where Miranda first arrives at the office. The film doesn't need to explain her power with dialogue. The reactions of the employees tell us everything.
The teacher said, how you play a king has nothing to do with you. You're just you. It's how everybody else in the room act when you enter it.
Meryl Streep's performance also makes the subtext much stronger. Her Miranda often says very little, but the audience can still understand exactly what she is thinking from a look, a pause, a change in tone, or the smallest movement of her face. That is one of the main reasons Miranda Priestly became the most iconic part of the film, and much of that comes from Streep herself. She partly based Miranda's quiet, almost icy way of speaking on Clint Eastwood.
Critics are just like anybody else. They have their opinion, and you hope it's very flattering to your ego.
By all means, move at a glacial pace. You know how that thrills me.
Streep got Miranda's habit of delivering the sharpest insults with a completely calm face from director Mike Nichols. Her cool silver hair and strict haircut were inspired by model Carmen De Laurentiis and finance executive Christine Lagarde. But Streep's work went far beyond the character's appearance and mannerisms. For this role, she used a method of full immersion that was unusual for her. She kept some distance from the rest of the cast and spent much of her time alone. Streep understood that Miranda could easily turn into a cartoonish, evil boss. So she insisted on adding a scene where the character appears vulnerable, confused, and deeply human.
I don't really care what anybody writes about me. But my girls, it's just so unfair to the girls.
It was just as important for Streep to show Miranda not only as a tyrant, but also as a true professional. In almost every scene, she is focused on her work. We can see that Runway is not just a magazine to her, it is her whole life, and her harsh demands usually feel less like random cruelty and more like an attempt to make everything perfect. Thanks to Streep's involvement, the cold and powerful boss becomes a much deeper and more complex character than she first appears. At the beginning of the film, Miranda inspires almost pure fear. But by the end, that feeling slowly turns into understanding and even respect for how deeply committed she is to her work. The image of this icy perfectionist became so powerful that its legacy is still complicated. On one hand, Miranda inspired many viewers to dream about a career in fashion. On the other, the film also helped create the idea that being harsh, cold, and ruthless is somehow a necessary part of success and professionalism.
And you have no style or sense of fashion?
Well, I think that depends on what you're...
No, that wasn't a question.
Meryl Streep received an Oscar nomination for the role, which is especially impressive because comedic performances do not get that kind of attention from the Academy very often.
such a good actress.
Anne Hathaway, however, didn't need to completely disappear into the role of Andy. A lot of what the character was going through was already familiar to her in real life. At the time, Hathaway was dating businessman Raffaello Folieri, who, according to her, was not very supportive of her career and became annoyed when filming ran late. That is one reason Andy's anxiety, exhaustion, and guilt about her personal life feels so believable. Hathaway was dealing with a very similar kind of pressure herself. Music also helped her reach the right emotional state. Before filming one of the scenes, for example, Anne listened to Madama Butterfly, a tragic opera about broken hopes, which perfectly matched what her character was feeling.
I really did everything I could think of.
That's all.
The supporting cast is a big reason the film feels so light, funny, and alive. Stanley Tucci was cast as Nigel only a few days before filming started, so he had almost no time for long preparation. But that may have actually helped. Yeah, on set, he improvised a lot and quickly found the perfect mix of sarcasm, exhaustion, and warm mentorship for the character.
All right, everyone, gird your loins.
Did someone eat an onion bagel?
Emily Blunt, on the other hand, prepared for her role very carefully. For the London-born actress, this was a real chance to make a name for herself in Hollywood, and she used it perfectly. While creating the character, Blunt took inspiration from John Cleese of Monty Python. She mixed stiff body language with sudden, sharp movements and spoke with an intentionally strong British accent. That made Emily feel both arrogant and genuinely funny.
Oh, I'm sorry, do you have some prior commitment? Some hideous skirt convention you have to go to?
Blunt even thought carefully about the character's bright makeup, as if Emily was using it to hide her insecurity and protect herself from the outside world. In the end, she created one of the film's most memorable supporting characters. Nervous, sarcastic, funny, slightly strange, but still incredibly charming.
Thank you.
The character worked so well that the studio even insisted on bringing Emily back for the ending, so she could finally get the one thing she had wanted throughout the film.
I have all these clothes from Paris, and I don't have any place to wear them, so I was wondering if you could take them off my hands.
The Devil Wears Prada constantly balances comedy and drama. It is not just a stylish movie about expensive clothes, but also a very funny and sharply written story.
What do you think it is that makes Devil Wears Prada so timeless?
Fun. It's fun
as hell.
It's really fun.
The dialogue still feels quick and memorable. Many lines are still worth quoting.
They're showing a lot of florals right now, so I was thinking I could
Florals
do a shoot.
for spring. Groundbreaking.
And the fashion shows and office scenes still look impressive. But the glamour and high fashion are not just there to look good. Through them, the film asks questions that feel even more relevant 20 years later. How do you balance a career and a personal life? What compromises are you willing to make for success? Where does self-improvement end and losing your identity begin? And how can you tell the difference between real support from a partner and pressure disguised as love?
You used to say this was just a job. You used to make fun of the runway girls. What happened? Now you've become one of them.
Andy eventually finds her own answers. Because at its core, The Devil Wears Prada is a coming-of-age story. The main character is tempted by success, makes a moral choice, and still manages to stay true to herself. She learns the rules of the game and figures out how to survive inside them, but refuses to fully become someone who steps over other people to reach the top. That is why the film still feels truly iconic 20 years later. Its formula is so strong that it makes sense for the sequel to return to it. But while the filmmakers may have managed to recreate much of the original story structure, they could not fully bring back the same warm and lived-in visual world. The digital cinematography and modern color grading make the sequel look too much like a standard streaming release. Despite all the beautiful costumes and celebrity cameos, The Devil Wears Prada 2 ends up feeling less like a new satire of the fashion world and more like a bittersweet story about print media slowly disappearing. And Miranda Priestly, once again played brilliantly by Meryl Streep, no longer makes you feel fear and admiration. This time, she mostly makes you want to walk over and give her a hug.
Sorry. Who is this? Do you know her? Do I know her?
You might remember Andy. She was one of the Emilys.
One of the what?
In the first film, almost anyone could recognize themselves either as the employee or the boss. After all, who hasn't repeated that office mantra in their head at least once?
I love my job, I love my job, I love my job.
Who hasn't been confused by another ridiculous assignment?
Sometimes I can't believe I talk about this crap all day.
Or, on the other side, honestly wondered why the simplest tasks still can't be finished on time.
There's some reason that my coffee isn't here. Has she died or something?
And that may be one of the main reasons The Devil Wears Prada has aged so well. It doesn't really matter where you work or what position you have. The important thing is that after a hard day, you can always put on this movie, finally relax, and watch someone else deal with deadlines, chaos, and impossible demands.